Hey students, this is Mr. Moore. I'm back with you for our AP Euro review session. I am using, again, an outline that was given to us by the College Board. I'm quite sure I'll say that at the beginning of every single one of these videos to reiterate how important it is to use the materials the College Board has given to us if we're preparing for their test. Unit 1 covers two major ideas, the Renaissance and exploration. On this short video, I'm just going to be covering topic 1.4 on printing. This should be pretty quick because of the content that's given to us, but I'm breaking each of the topics up into bite-sized pieces, trying to give some dialogue. I've said this in other videos, but if you'd rather just close this video and go to the actual document that you can find on my website, if you click on, if you Google Mr. Moore and you come to my webpage, then obviously you would click on the 10th grade AP European History page there, and at the bottom of the page you would find a link to my resource webpage. And this is where I've posted live for everyone all of the resources that I've been gathering over. You can see each of the time periods broken up into their pieces, and then you'll find a display box with all of the different units, and that's what I'm using to kind of guide us in this review. I've done this every single year I've taught AP Euro. Like the month leading up to the test, I like to go with students over every single one of the topics and try to help them to the best of my ability to get ready for the AP test. This is topic 1.4 on printing. Learning Objective E, explain the influence of the printing press on culture and intellectual developments in modern European history. In this class, what I decided to do early in the year was to give my students what we like to sometimes call a mini-Q. And this mini-Q was all about the printing press. And it said exploration or reformation. Which was the more important consequence of the printing press? And I love that because it ties together this first unit. It shows us how the Renaissance led to exploration and also how the Renaissance is going to lead to the Reformation. Now, I'm not going to talk about exploration so much in this review. I'll do that later. And I'm not going to talk about the Reformation. We'll do tons of videos on the Reformation, trying to remind us and dissect everything we need to know about the Reformation. But this shows you the consequences of the printing press. It helped people to gain knowledge. Christopher Columbus said that one of the things that inspired him to go out on his journeys of discovery was reading about the adventures of Marco Polo. Marco Polo lived during the 1200s, a couple hundred years before Christopher Columbus. And so the writings of Marco Polo were around for several hundred years before Columbus's time, but Columbus didn't have access to that until the printing press. The number one thing printed on the printing press was the Bible. Christianity is the heart of European civilization. But the second most printed book on the printing press was The Adventures of Marco Polo. And so it inspired exploration. As I just said, the most written thing on the printing press was the Bible, like the Gutenberg Bible, right? Johann Gutenberg was the guy who invented movable type in Europe. It's quite a lengthy process. You have to hand put in every single letter. The letters have to be carved in metal. So you have to be somewhat of a metal worker, and you can watch tons of videos. I'm not going to go into all of that, but you have to lay out all the type, which could take you an entire day. And you might say, well, that's not faster than handwriting it. But once you've laid out the type backwards, because you have to put the paper down and then print, so you have to actually look at it backwards. But once you've done that, once you've laid out a page, then you copy a couple thousand in the process of a day. And so even though it's painfully slow to set the type, once you've done that, then you can print things. And so later, there's so many people who are going to be inspired by Christian writers, and they can get their literature out fast, which is going to increase literacy across the continent of Europe. So to come back here, the invention of printing promoted the dissemination of new ideas, right? So ideas are spreading, disseminating. The invention of the printing press in the 1450s helped spread the Renaissance beyond Italy and encouraged the growth of vernacular literature, which would eventually contribute to the development of national cultures. I like this word vernacular. The college board likes to use big words because, quite frankly, this is a college class. And the vernacular is the common language of the people. So I'm going to come back one more time to geography because it's so important when we're studying history. Again, I've said this in past videos, but in Western Europe during medieval times, Latin was the lingua franca of the area, right? It's the common language that was used for academics in Western Europe. In Eastern Europe, they were using Greek because the Byzantine Empire lasted way beyond what Rome did, okay? The Byzantine Empire finally falls. Constantinople falls in 1453. That's why our class is starting in the 1450s, because that's going to shift everything in European history. As a reminder, people used to get their goods from Asia coming through the Byzantine Empire, but afterwards people started to look for other ways to get to Asia. And because they only know about this part of the world, their only idea is to go around Africa or to sell out into the ocean. And theoretically, if the world is round, they should, boom, land here in the East Indies and, get goods from China and from India. Of course, they're going to run into two continents that are there. But at the time, of course, their maps didn't have anything to do with that. So that's, again, showing you the ramifications of printing and how it's going to shape and change things. So the word vernacular here, if we look at our map of Europe, the word vernacular means the common language of the people. This might seem like a duh, but if you live in this part of Europe, the vernacular is French. Are there people who speak other languages besides French? Of course, but that's the vernacular of this area. And so it kind of, by writing things in the vernacular, then it starts to create this cultural and then eventually political ideology, which is going to form the country of France. In Spain, again, you would think, well, duh, the vernacular is Spanish. It turns out, though, in the country of Spain today, there are other languages besides Spanish. If you come up here to the northern part of Spain, there's a language that's completely different than Spanish. It's called Basque. And this Basque region, it's nothing like Spanish. And of course, Castellano, the Spanish in Spain, is different than, say, like Spanish in Mexico. Even though they would understand each other, it's just like English in England. They have different accents and use different words. And if you get into some parts of, like, say, Ireland, they're talking about this really thick, Irish accent, and sometimes you can hardly understand them. But there's different languages, and so that vernacular, the common language of the area, helps countries to start to form. Obviously, we think there's the modern day country of Germany here today, so those people obviously speak German. But back, the boundaries weren't like this. There was no Germany, not until, say, 1870s, right? When Germany is united. But there were German-speaking peoples in the Holy Roman Empire, and they had that sort of connection that they saw themselves as German. As a small side note, if you actually go to Germany, they would call their country Deutschland, and they speak a language called Deutsch. Okay, it's very similar to Dutch, but it's Deutsch, and so it's interesting. If you look at European license plates, if there's a big fat D on the license plate, that's for Deutschland, Germany, which would be like, oh, I thought that would be maybe like Denmark, but no. If you see a big fat E on a European car, that's España, of course. We call it Spain in English. But again, it all has to do with language, and it's going to affect the development of national cultures. So that's going to close it for topic 1.4 on printing. Thanks for joining us, and this is Mr. Moore signing off.